Okay, good morning YouTube, and you may have seen on my Facebook page I've been cleaning up this old Woden vise, and yeah, we're just going to put it back together today, and hopefully it all goes well. It's had 2 coats of Painter's Touch Grey, and it's had another 2 coats of Painter's Touch, Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch Espresso. But now it is time to start reassembling this old beastie. So let's have a look. Now the way I was thinking of assembling it was to reassemble the lead screw assembly onto the main body and then slide it in. Having looked at it a bit further, I remembered that that's not actually going to work. These vices contain a little washer that stops the quick release action from dumping the movable jaw on the floor. That goes on the end of the lead screw like that. It floats loosely, but obviously I can't then assemble it and slide it into place, because then it's going to hit on the castings where it's designed to stop it coming out. So I'm going to have to reassess how it goes back together. So I think the way to do it then is going to be to find wherever I've left the nut, or the half nut on these, it's not a complete nut, and start from there. So, got the nut, and quickly tip this on its side. Okay, so we can see that the sliding mechanism that bolts on the end here comes in from the one side, which makes life a little bit easier. Means I know which way around to put the half nut. On some vices it is possible to reassemble them back to front, and then you've got a quick release, a quick tighten, but an automatic release, and that's not quite what anyone's really after in a nice big metalworking vise like this. So that's now down, and it's just underneath the level of the internal casting marks. However, it isn't quite square. Doing the initial assembly on some bits can be a little bit tricky, getting everything to line up where it's supposed to be. especially if it hasn't been out of the vise for, you know, nearly 60 years, you've suddenly disturbed everything, and sometimes they can be quite awkward. All it needed was quickly spinning round and a little bit glaring at. Okay, so just got some lithium grease. I'm just going to lightly grease all the sliding parts before we assemble it all. You see some people online, they spend hours taking, vapor blasting and all sorts and filing these down so as they're absolutely smooth. But unless you're adding metal back to the vise, you're actually making the fit worse by doing that. Certainly I've lightly filed the tops just to get rid of the really rough spots, but there's no point going any further. So all the little chips and wear marks that don't protrude, I've just left them there, because otherwise, unless you're adding more metal to the movable jaw or where it slides, then you're just making the fit worse, and I don't really see the point of that. Okay, so let's fit you back in there. Okay, so I forgot to take any videos when I took this apart, but even with the lead screw removed, I could barely move the sliding jaw in and out smoothly. I had to really wiggle on it to get it to do anything. Now it's actually sliding really nicely, and just get rid of the last of the grease on my fingers onto the top slideway. I mean, this vise has certainly lived a life. There's quite a bit of wear in the vertical direction, and there's a little bit of wear from side to side as well, but to be honest, nothing I'm too concerned about. I've used worse, I've seen worse used every day in some places, so I don't think it's a great issue. When fixing a vise, always make sure you've got a second vise to help you put it back together for when you get those inevitable stiff moments. Now, it was a little bit stiff taking it apart, but I did file it gently, and thought that would have been enough, and there we go. Okay, so that's that loosely assembled. got nowhere near enough tension on it at the moment, so what we'll do is we'll just pull back on the nut assembly and wind some tension against that spring, or in fact wind the tension away from the spring. Let's try winding the tension up, shall we? That's still barely anything. So it really doesn't, like, 2 steps on that spring really makes a huge difference. I've repaired some other makes of vices before now, and getting this little spring setup done is a lot more of a pain on some other, should we say, better known makes. I regularly clean up a charity I work with, Record Vice, similar era to this one, and getting it all back together sometimes can be a bit of a nightmare. So I try not to touch the quick release too much on that one. Whereas on this one, I wouldn't say it was pleasant, but it's hardly the end of the world. The washer I was telling you about, so that just literally pops on the end of the lead screw, and all it's there for is to stop the quick release mechanism before the entire movable jaw exits the vise. Now that that assembly's in, I can loosely fit up the back plate that holds the lead screw and the quick release assembly on, and then I can turn the whole vise over and put the last couple of bits of the quick release mechanism together, and then hopefully we'll have a vise that works as intended. If not, I've got to take the whole thing apart and start again. And all we need to do is pop this little nut and washer assembly in, and she's ready to go. So yeah, the paintwork's not quite perfect. You know, if it was a piece of furniture, I'd almost describe the paintwork as shabby chic. If I'm honest though, it looks a lot better than when we started with it, and you know, I've never claimed to be the world's best painter, although the way this video's gone, I'm also not the world's best vice mechanic either. Okay, so in theory, now as this is all assembled, we pull on this bar and the nut drops out. However, the nut is currently not going in. Okay, so the camera stopped recording, so we took a short break while I emptied the memory card a little bit further. What I discovered was I put this little plate in the wrong way up, so I was pushing this like that, at which point it just couldn't quite move in the correct orientation. Now as I've reversed it, the mechanism works beautifully, and here we go for attempt number 2. There we go. So she's a little bit stiff to disengage, but I think, there we go. As it's been slid a few more times, that should correct itself. Now, I've tweaked these up as tight as they'll go at the moment, but there's still a lot of play in this housing. So, back it all off slightly and see what's going on there. So we're still getting a little bit of teething issues with the quick release. I'm hoping just winding a couple of notches on the star nut will be enough. And then hopefully what we'll have is a quick release that both engages and disengages nice and smoothly. There we go. Quick release, there we go. So that's still being a little bit awkward to disengage, but I think as time goes on that will smooth out. So I'm going to go and see if I can find a tap. They are 1/2 inch AF, or the bolt at the bottom is 1/2 inch AF rather than being 1/4 inch Whitworth, so I'm guessing they're all UNF. So I'm going to pop and find a tap and I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay. So I went and found a tap, and I've got one of these little Eclipse T-shaped tool holders, tap holders I mean, and what it means is I don't have to take the handle and everything else off to just quickly clean these holes out. Oh yeah, there's some crud coming out on that. Okay, so that does appear to have gone in that bit further, and just turn it slightly so as I can see what I'm doing. It's definitely something to think about for the next one of these I do, is taking a tap to all the holes, because it came apart quite easily. I kind of went, oh well, I'm guessing the holes aren't too bad, but I have a feeling it may have just been tightened until basically the screws wouldn't tighten easily and just left at that. I think it's had some looking at in the past, and actually it's quite possible that the reason it was all a bit stiff was because someone else found a few issues with it and just reassembled it and kind of left it to sit on the shelf until I got some more motivation. I don't know a great deal of history about this vice. I got it from a local scrap merchant to my parents. He was offering it on Facebook at a very reasonable price, and I took a gamble. Well, I mean, it's a Woden, they're a good vice, but sometimes you find all kinds of horrors. Thankfully, so far this one's not presented many.